Formerly the Flying Dutchman, now we have to call him Drivers' World Champion. That's right, Max Verstappen reached the pinnacle of Formula 1 motor racing after his victory in the surprising circumstances, to say the least, in Abu Dhabi last weekend. Now, Max brings an end to the dominance of Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton over the last few years and brings a close to one of the most thrilling Formula 1 seasons we've ever seen. But what about the rest of his career so far? He's only 24 years old. He's been around the sport for a fair bit of time though, and there's plenty to look back at. So let's take a closer look here at GPFans at the career so far of Max Verstappen. Before we go any further, just a reminder, hit the subscribe button down below to stay up to date with everything we do at the channel. But now, this is the life so far of Max. Verstappen has been a regular face on the Formula 1 grid now for 7 years, but his discovery came 2 classes lower in Formula 3. In 2014, Verstappen was in imperious form at a soaking wet Norris ring in Germany. That weekend, he won all 3 Formula 3 races there, and there were a number of celebrities watching in attendance. Red Bull racing advisor Helmut Marko, among others, was on site to take a look at a 16-year-old that he'd heard so much about. Verstappen didn't disappoint either, and from that day on, Marko was sure this boy has to come to us at Red Bull. First appearance in Formula 1. A few months later, it was announced that the 17-year-old Verstappen would make his F1 debut in Japan. At Suzuka, he was allowed to take care of a free practice on behalf of Toro Rosso, now of course AlphaTauri. He impressed there too. The following year, in 2015, he made his debut as an F1 driver. Verstappen was still only 17 years old, and was not yet allowed to drive on public roads, and he only had a few kilometres of experience at the highest level. His official debut. The debut of the Dutch driver therefore raised a few eyebrows. Especially in the media, people wondered if he was not just too young for the job, something AlphaTauri team principal Franz Tost has never worried about. Many experts said it was much too early, to which I said, but not for Max Verstappen, because he is not a passenger in the car, as you often see with these newcomers, but he drives the car. How he controlled the car, mastered it completely, extraordinary. During his debut race in Australia, Verstappen was awarded with a DNF due to engine problems, but during the next stop in Malaysia, he immediately silenced many of his critics. At the Sepang International Circuit, he crossed the line in 7th and thus claimed his first World Championship points in Formula 1. This made him the youngest ever driver to take points in motorsport's premier class. Verstappen continued to impress that season as well, including a 4th place in Hungary and the United States. Making the move to Red Bull. This led to his promotion to Red Bull Racing after 4 races in 2016. Now, Danny Kvyat did not perform as desired with the Austrian superpower. After the Russian Grand Prix, his home race, Kvyat was sent back to Toro Rosso by Helmut Marko. Verstappen went the opposite way and took the seat next to Daniel Ricciardo. This also raised a few eyebrows. An 18-year-old driver for a top team was not something that had happened in very many seasons in Formula 1. His first Formula 1 win. What happened next is now Formula 1 history. Verstappen made his debut for Red Bull Racing on Sunday the 15th of May during the Spanish Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton drove each other off the track, after which Verstappen crowned himself the youngest Grand Prix winner in the history of the sport and became world news for the first time. That same season, Verstappen made himself legendary with many of his performances, like in Brazil where he defied the weather gods with a phenomenal race working his way through the field. Again, he kept his critics silent, if only temporarily. The learning process. The 2017 and 18 seasons were not the best seasons for Max Verstappen. The Limburger regularly scored high with his overtaking actions, but was also increasingly criticised for his overly aggressive defence, according to some of his colleagues and experts, and I think some would probably say that still exists in his game today. Again, his age was regularly highlighted negatively, after which the still young Verstappen was not always able to hide his frustrations. This, in combination with many problems with the Renault power source at the time as well for Red Bull Racing, ensured that it didn't always look good on track. However, a learning process is inevitable in Formula 1. From 2019, the upward trend became increasingly visible. Verstappen became calmer, more thoughtful about what he said in the press, made fewer mistakes on the track and tried to compensate for the mistakes he did make less often in the next corner. All in all, it resulted in a handsome third place in the Drivers' Championship, his best result to date. Growing up. The now mature Verstappen seemed to be ready to take on Mercedes from 2020, but the lack of a good teammate meant that he had to face two silver arrows on his own. Red Bull Racing had been driving with Honda engines under the hood since 2019, which solved the power problems of the previous seasons. Verstappen again finished third, but this time only 9 points behind the number 2 driver, Valtteri Bottas. World Champion. It no longer needs to be explained to anyone how Verstappen performed last season. The Dutchman maximised his car time and time again and was almost flawless in a number of races, remaining almost bizarrely calm under the immense pressure of a possible world title. Coupled with a good job from Red Bull Racing, the reliability of Honda and the excellent support of Sergio Perez, that last race alone he has to thank the Mexican driver so much for. Verstappen, in a bizarre way, characterises this whole season of being a bit all over the place at times, but very calm and secure in exactly where he was going, the World Championship. So that is Max Verstappen and his Formula 1 career so far. But what is next for the young Dutch driver? Does he go back to back? Do you ever see him leaving Red Bull, or will Christian Horner keep his hands firmly on this Dutch driver? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything we do here at the channel. And of course, at GPFans Global on Twitter and Instagram to stay up to date with all of the breaking news from the world of Formula 1.